Lucille Ball was one of the most powerful women in Hollywood history. She built an empire, shaped television as we know it, and made the world laugh for decades. But power has a way of pulling back the curtain on people, showing you who they really are when the lights go down and the cameras stop rolling. Before she died, Lucille spoke privately about a handful of women she had encountered during her long career, women whose public images were polished and adored, but whose private behavior left her deeply unsettled. These were not idle gossip or petty jealousies. These were accounts rooted in what she personally witnessed, and each one stayed with her until her final days. Joan Crawford was perhaps the name that carried the most weight. To the public, Crawford was the very definition of Hollywood royalty, all glamour and grace and perfectly pressed elegance. But Lucille saw a version of Crawford the cameras never caught. In 1971, Crawford made a guest appearance on Here's Lucy, and from the moment she walked through the studio doors, something shifted in the air. She arrived with a list of demands. The temperature had to be set to exactly 68 degrees, her chair had to be positioned at a precise angle, and the lighting had to be adjusted specifically for her bone structure. Lucille took it all in stride. What she could not forgive came shortly after. A young wardrobe assistant, only 22 years old, brought Crawford a dress with a barely noticeable wrinkle. Instead of a simple correction or even a sharp word, Crawford dismantled the girl entirely. Witnesses heard her hiss that the young woman was a useless little nothing, that even toilets would be lucky to have her. The girl left in tears, and Crawford demanded she be fired on the spot. Lucille refused. From that moment on, there was a quiet, cold war between them. What struck Lucille most was how instantly Crawford transformed the moment cameras rolled. She became warm, radiant, charming, the perfect guest. Then the red light clicked off, and she returned to ice. Lucille said later that she had worked with department store mannequins who felt more human. She believed that how a powerful person treated someone who had nothing to offer them revealed everything about their true character. By that measure, Crawford failed completely. Judy Garland was a different kind of difficult. Lucille had known her since their days together at MGM and had always admired her voice, her raw emotional power, the way she could reach straight into a room and grab every heart in it. But admiration and respect are not the same thing, and over time, Lucille grew deeply frustrated with the trail of damage Garland left behind her. A television director once told Lucille about a shoot where Garland was called for 5 a.m. The entire crew, every grip, every lighting technician, every camera operator, waited through the morning. She arrived at 2 p.m, apologetic and radiant. She delivered 30 minutes of stunning, flawless work, then declared she was too exhausted to continue and left. 3 crew members were fired in the days that followed because the production had gone over budget. Lucille's anger was not rooted in envy or even judgment of Garland's personal struggles. It came from something more personal. She had survived Hollywood by being reliable, by showing up, by understanding that other people depended on her. Watching someone squander extraordinary gifts while innocent people paid the price felt like a betrayal of everything she believed in. When Garland died in 1969, Lucille mourned the talent genuinely. But she never forgave the chaos. Ava Gardner was something else entirely. What bothered Lucille about Crawford was coldness. What bothered her about Garland was recklessness. But with Ava, what she saw was something she found far more disturbing. Pleasure in cruelty. Lucille witnessed it firsthand at an MGM wardrobe fitting in the mid-1960s. A nervous young assistant presented Ava with a dress that had a barely perceptible flaw, a seam slightly softened from oversteaming. It was nothing, but Ava's response was volcanic. She told the girl slowly and deliberately that there was no point in trying to fix it, because incompetence could not be corrected by more incompetence. The young woman stood frozen, publicly humiliated. Lucille felt her chest tighten. This was not the behavior of someone who had high standards. This was the behavior of someone who enjoyed watching others shrink. Later, she told a close friend that Ava did not make mistakes, she made victims. The situation worsened at an industry cocktail party when someone casually mentioned Lucille's name in conversation. Ava smirked and said loudly that the washed-up clown was still working. The room went quiet. Ava did not flinch. Lucille later said that if Ava had not been beautiful, no one would have tolerated who she really was. They never reconciled. And for the rest of her life, whenever Ava's face appeared in a magazine or a documentary, Lucille would quietly say that people had no idea what she was behind the face. Betty Davis was someone Lucille respected enormously as a performer. Davis's talent was undeniable, ferocious, and brilliant. But talent, in Lucille's view, did not grant someone the right to wound others for sport. Their most memorable encounter happened at an industry dinner in the mid-1960s. A young waiter had brought the wrong wine to Davis's table, a simple mistake. Davis did not let it pass quietly. She turned on the boy in front of the entire room, asking loudly whether reading a label was simply beyond him. The waiter apologized over and over, but she continued, clearly savoring the moment. Lucille sat nearby and watched, stunned and then cold with disgust. When Davis spotted her and raised a glass in a mock-friendly gesture, Lucille did not return it. She had seen enough. She told a friend later that Crawford had been cold, but Davis had actively enjoyed inflicting the wound. Lucille believed that greatness came with responsibility, that power should be used to protect people, not break them. She and Davis never worked together closely. Even years later, when tribute programs and retrospectives brought Davis back into public conversation, Lucille quietly declined any joint appearances. Zsa Zsa Gabor was a figure Lucille found less frightening and more revolting in a specific way. She did not fear Zsa Zsa or resent her. What she despised was the performance of kindness layered over genuine contempt for everyone around her. At a charity event in the late 1960s, Lucille watched Zsa Zsa float draped in diamonds and furs, smiling radiantly for the photographers.